Welcome Bronco Nation to my post-game review for Boise State versus San Jose State. Before I begin this video, obviously address the elephant in the room, the boxes in the room. This is not my usual setup that I have, and that's because I am home for Christmas, as hopefully all of you are also. My wife and I recently just bought a house, and we are still in the process of unpacking. Haven't quite got it all up together. I'm on leave for 2 weeks, and I'll go back to my training unit, finish up my training, and then I'll be coming back here. I'll get everything set up, studio like I do for my usual videos, and hopefully next time you see me doing videos in this area, this space in February or so, it'll all be set up nice and normal looking. But for right now, I'll try to do the best I can through my Boise State carpet up behind me. So try to give it the best case scenario I can here. So that's just addressing that right off the bat. So a little bit different scenario here for the next, any of my videos for the next couple of weeks here, going to be in this format. Apologize for the lighting and everything not being as great as it usually is. And we'll just kind of push forward, address that, and move forward from there. So obviously, the game did not go as all of us would have hoped. This was it was a very disappointing win. It was a very disappointing loss. It was not a game that most of us expected going this way. I mean, I think that a lot of us expected that it was going to be a close game, which it was until the end there. I think a lot of us expected it potentially to be a close game, but we also thought, this is a San Jose State team that's picked 5th in the conference to start the year, and Boise State was picked number 1. This is a San Jose State team that has historically been very bad in the conference. Now, the last couple of years, they've had a little bit of a resurgence, and obviously this year they're a lot better. But this is not a team that Boise State Broncos that we know and love, the team that we support. This is not a team that Boise State should be going out and struggling at the way that they did. I mean, San Jose State controlled this game from start to finish. Boise State had a chance to finish it out there at the end, a chance to get the win, and to kind of come back, sparked by Jeremy Avery. We'll talk about that. But that was a chance that they received. It was not something that they had in their pocket the whole game. San Jose State was in control. So let's talk about that. This is going to just be a little bit of a departure from my normal routine for these videos. Again, apologize for the echo. I can hear myself now. The audio is probably not as good as it usually is. But anyhow, jumping in right now. So why is it that Boise State, what we saw in the field happened? Why did that occur? And I think first and foremost, it's because we were exposed. For the first time, Boise State, with a team that should have been capable of beating them, and I'm not counting the BYU game. I gave Boise State a range of excuses for that loss in the BYU game, which maybe in retrospect, with the way they played in this game, maybe weren't as valid as I thought they were. But I gave Boise State a range of excuses because of all the players that were out of injury or illness. Sears and Bachmeier, Sears later in the game, right at the beginning of the game that was. But Bachmeier right off the bat because of COVID. Halani out due to injury. I think Bates was out at the time or went out in his injury during that game. And a lot of other, Washington was out. A lot of other injuries throughout that limited Boise State. However, this game, Boise State had its key players back. That should have been enough to win this game. They were still without John Bates, and they were without George Halani among some other players. So that's key, and maybe they would have had a better shot. If they'd had a run game, they'd have had a better shot in this one. But they had Bachmeier back, and that should have been enough to win this game. And it wasn't, and I think that's because the defense is a lot weaker than we thought it was. The units on the offensive line, and we'll talk about all of this a little more in depth at the end of the video. The offensive line, the defense, all those units, the wide receiving core, maybe not as deep as we thought it was. All of these places, we were finally exposed without any excuses against a team that is a good team that could go out there and penetrate Boise State's weaknesses, and they came to light for the first time. So I think that's part of it. And also, I just want to make an also note on this video. If this video runs a little long, I'm going to try and break it up into segments. So if we get to about 15 minutes, I'll cut it, and then we'll start again, and we'll do a part A and B as necessary on this video. So I think that right off the bat is just addressing it. But I think there's 4 other issues to look at why Boise State lost this game. And first off, I just want to know, I am not making excuses for Boise State in this one. I made excuses for the BYU game because I thought Boise State had valid excuses. Boise State should not have lost this game, and they did. San Jose State beat them. San Jose State proved themselves to be the better team in this matchup. I still think overall Boise State is probably a better team. I think that they're always going to be top of the conference. They have the best recruiting class, stats-wise, talent level-wise. I think Boise State will always be the better team. But tonight, San Jose State was the better team in this matchup. They came ready to play. So we'll talk about that in a second here. But so just to come off the bat, I am not making excuses for Boise State. They should not have lost this game. And they did. San Jose State is definitely the better opponent in this, and San Jose State won this game square and fair. There were some refereeing decisions that were questionable, but I don't think they ended up swinging the game. Boise State definitely lost this game and has no excuses on that front. Now let's launch into excuses. It's just, they're not excuses, but this is why. This is why Boise State, I think, lost this game. First off, San Jose State was a lot more motivated to win this game. Now, Boise State, I don't think that they were not motivated coming into this. Is that double negative? I don't think that they weren't motivated coming into this game. Unlike some of the other games we've seen in the past, like the bowl games where Boise State lost to Baylor a few years back, and then when they lost to Washington last year. I don't think Boise State was motivated going to those games because they had something bigger to play for that they didn't end up getting, and then this was kind of a settling. That's not the case here. Mountain West Championship, #1 goal on the team locker room there, or on their the Coach Harson's on the wall. Get the Mountain West Championship. It's the #1 team goal. There was no way that Boise State didn't come into this motivated to get it. However, I think San Jose State came in more motivated to get this trophy than Boise State did. San Jose State, this is the first time that they are appearing in the Mountain West Championship game. It's a real revival for their program. They did have a good year a few years back, right after joining the Mountain West. I think it was 2012 or 13, 14. I think it's 2014. They did have a good year. I think they even got into the top 25 AP rankings. But this is their first solid year, the first time they've gone undefeated in conference play, the first time that they have appeared in that Mountain West Championship game, the first time that they have appeared as a contender, and they were out there. This is Boise State's fourth time. This is routine. Boise State expects to be there. Maybe there's a little bit of an they expect to be in this game, and maybe they expect to deserve to win. And San Jose State was out there. They were the underdog. Boise State is used to playing as the national underdog, as it was. Well, in this game, San Jose State was the one that came in with a chip on their shoulder and just out blue-collared Boise State in this one. So that was a big factor right off the bat. And a lot of when you talk about motivation, the size of the dog in the fight doesn't always matter as much as the size of the fight in the dog, to quote a famous statement there. So the Boise State's been there. They've been that team that was going to a game playing a team that expected to win, that came in with a higher, Boise State went, and of course, I'm just going to leave the famous example. Boise State went and beat Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl. Oklahoma was a better team athletically, according to all stats, skills, recruiting, whatever. They were a better team, and Boise State went out and beat them and proved to be the better team that day because they were more motivated, they were better coached, and there were other factors there. But Boise State went out and won that game because they had the will, the want to go get it. And San Jose State had that today, and that's going to overcome a lot of issues, especially when you have no fans in the stands and it's all self-motivating, all internal pushing for that. Well, that's what happened today. Boise State just got out-pushed, and San Jose State ended up going out and getting this tonight. The second reason, I think Harsin got out-coached. Now, Brian Harsin is an incredible coach. He has my full support. Not that matters. Not that my opinion matters on any of that. But, if he asked for it, he'd have it in a heartbeat. Brian Harsin has my full support, an incredible coach. We are so lucky to have him. To anyone who goes, anytime Boise State loses, you have all of, on the Boise Bronco Nation updates page, you'll have all these people going out, fire Coach Harsin, blah, 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 And I don't care who's out there. That's just what, people's reaction is going to be. They're angry. They want to vent. I understand. I get it. That is not the correct response, though. Brian Harsin is better than any candidate out there who would be willing to come and coach at Boise State. He is and regardless of that, he is an incredible coach. He's an incredible offensive mind, and he's playing in incredibly tough circumstances this year. Yes, there are issues throughout. Like any coach is going to have their issues, but overall, Brian Harsin has kept what the previous coaches before him, the Chris Petersons, the Dan Hawkins, the world did before him. He has kept Boise State at that standard and is pushing and willing them forward to exceed even beyond that, which we'll talk about in a second, as maybe was a reason. So Brian Harsin is an incredible coach, but he got out-coached today. Why is that? So part of that is the drive factor. San Jose State coming in just with a better game plan. They've got nothing to lose. They got nothing to lose. There's no expectations for them. Everyone expects them to lose this game. Boise State has everything to lose because they are the team that should be winning this game. But San Jose State's got nothing to lose. They're pulling out all the stops. They were the team that went out there that was a better prepared, that came out and won this game. So Brian Harsin just got out-coached today, and that happens sometimes. But I think there were other factors. So this week, I think it was right before the Wyoming game, so just last week, but just within the last 10 days or so, last 2 weeks, of course, the email traffic between Boise State I'm not going to go into it in detail. There's articles out there. Just look up Boise State emails. They were exposed. Nothing wrong, I would say, on those. Nothing inappropriate or anything like that. But discussions that put pressure potentially on Brian Harsin for some of the statements that he had made. And again, I'm not going to go into depth of them. That's not what this video is about. You can go read articles that talk about that. But I think that was weighing on his mind. There's 3 things. So the emails being exposed just the week before, I think that was distracting him. The coaching buzz, his name always comes up every single year, and that's always going to be a factor. This year he's being mentioned as a candidate for the Arizona job, so I think that is a potential slight distractor. I don't think it's a significant factor, but when factored in with everything else, is a potential factor. And then, of course, the big one that the university got hit recently with the team prayer issue. Again, I'm not going to go into that. I'm just listing out factors that I think potentially were on Brian Harsin's mind and maybe even on the team's mind, and was potentially a distractor from what should have been a all-in focus on the matchup kind of situation. The third issue here is player depth. So San Jose State came in with essentially amounted to a full roster, and they had their own issues. I think they had some minor injuries, some minor COVID. I don't even know if they had any COVID. I didn't look at their injury list, but I know from what the announcers were saying beforehand that it looked like they were good to go. Boise State did not have that. They were without their top tight end, their top running back, and then other issues throughout, minor depth issues throughout the rest of the program. So that was an issue, and that definitely showed throughout, whereas San Jose State looked fresh throughout the game. Boise State definitely came in, they weren't consistent. They came in flashes. And part of that was because of the depth issue. Then the final point I'm going to bring up here is that just the practice experience. Now, what do I mean by that? San Jose State, the team that they played with last year, is pretty much the same team that they're playing with this year. Pretty much, some position changes did happen in key places. I understand that. But the overall team, the overall defense, the overall receiving unit, I know they lost a couple of key receivers there, but overall the team that came in, especially depth-wise, going down the depth chart, is overall the same team they played with last year. That is not the case with Boise State. Boise State lost a significant number of players, not so much on the offensive side, though on the offensive line they did. Their offensive line I think they had to replace numerous members on offensive line there. But offensive line, but beyond that, defensively, Boise State lost a ton of players on defense. Of course, Curtis Weaver was leading the list as far as players that Boise State lost, but there were many, many others, and Boise State is pretty much putting in fresh faces in almost every single defensive position, except for key ones, because Avery Williams returns and some others, Riley Wimpy, but there are some other, for the most part, Boise State's putting in brand new faces. Now, why does that matter? Well, when you're putting in new guys into new positions and training them up to be that new first string attack for you, you need practice time. You know what Boise State didn't get this year because of COVID? Practice time. And I think that those issues, we've seen them throughout. I've talked to them in some of my other videos, but this was really the first game that really fully, without any excuses, exposed those issues for what they are. So what I'm saying is, don't worry too much. Boise State program is not in trouble with this loss. These issues are not going to stay. They are all temporary. Boise State coming back next year is going to have a full, hopefully, COVID. They already have a vaccine out. Hopefully that works. We'll see. But everything seems to be kind of heading in the direction of returning to normalcy, and there's plans in place for practices. Boise State should have a full season of practice, get these guys prepared. Hopefully they're all able to come back and retain their scholarships and come back. And Boise State is going to be a team that's going to be very, like I've said in all my videos, and I still stand by it, the team that's very, very dangerous going forward. but it definitely showed this game. It showed throughout the season, and it definitely was exposed this game because of those weaknesses. So we're already at 15 minutes there. So I'm going to put a pause on this. I'll come back with a part B, and I'll just plan to push on part B with my normal video, just going through the offense, the defense, the special teams, grading all three of those units, and then also grading my 3 keys to the game and looking ahead for Boise State, what this loss means and what we're looking at going forward into the rest of the postseason here. So I'm going to click this in, then I'll click it again, and you guys can come back. I'll put the link into that next video in the description, or it'll probably be suggested for you. So stand tight. And if you're watching this on YouTube, this should just be a matter of seconds. I don't have ads in my videos, so it should be a smooth and rapid transition. So stand tight.